this young lady wanted to come this morning and share a little bit with us as well. I want to welcome, poet, playwright, actress, and, game changer, Miss Pearl Entu Springer. Good morning to you, Miss Springer.
Good morning.
And how are you this morning? Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, I'm all right, thank you. Struggling with the technology, and I have to thank my grandson, Ire, for helping me and being here with me.
I appreciate him helping you as well. I understand that you wanted to pay some tribute to Brother Resistance this morning.
Well, I don't remember saying that, but that is all in order. He was a friend, he was a brother. We worked together, we performed together on stages in England, in Trinidad. We were part of the Writers Union of Trinidad and Tobago. It is a loss, it is a loss, it is a loss. And, I'm saying that almost every week I lose a brother. I just lost Leroy again, another long-standing friend and brother. So my generation is passing, and we are leaving a lot of work undone for others to take up and follow.
But Ms. Springer, you guys have also done a lot of work, and I for one, am so grateful for the amount of work that you guys have put in, your entire generation, yourself, people like Leroy Clark, Brother Resistance as well. The amount of work that you guys have put in is iconic, to say the least, because I know I have been influenced by it, and a few generations have been influenced by the work that you guys have done and continue to do. So I want to say thank you. Thank you for all the work that you have done. And I want to celebrate people like Brother Resistance because his work is unmatched. And, one of the things that he focused on a lot was storytelling. And I know you focus on storytelling as well. How important is storytelling in our emancipation story?
Well, storytelling is an ancient device that can teach everything, It was the device by which our parents or grandparents taught us manners, taught us how to behave, taught us a whole lot of everything, shaped our lives. My mother had a story for every single thing. And story can teach us our history. Story can tell us what happened in our communities. Stories can engender links and respect between generations. And I still have to say that on our local TV station, there's still no storytelling for children. But storytelling is not only for children, it's for children and adults. And I really wanted to talk about resistance, but for me, storytelling and resistance are intertwined. Let me just take the simple example of Anansi. Anansi, the one who greedy, the one who don't see about the family, the one who does lie, and that is what we have been told about Anansi. When you get into the truth of who Anansi really is, he's Kweku Anansi, the god of wisdom of the Akan people, whose story has been distorted. Anansi is at the heart of Akan resistance, and the Akan were the greatest fighters against enslavement to come to the Caribbean. They engineered resistance in Barbados, Antigua, Suriname. Bookman was Akan. He went to Haiti and was part of the revolution there. In Tobago, Sandy was Akan in those years of revolt between 1770 and 1776. Akan, and they were so fierce that there were laws banning them from being brought into these islands as enslaved people. Do we know that story? So we have accepted what has been fed to us about Anansi as the Stephen lion, whereas the symbol Anansi is really what we should look at as a symbol of resistance and cultural confidence and cultural endurance, and also symbol of resistance in our part of the world. So that in a mouthful is the link between storytelling and resistance, a story that we do not know.
Yeah.
The story of IAT.
You know, the thing that you mentioned there about like the Anansi story, I know that for a long time, a lot of how we pass down stories was through the oral tradition. And I'm wondering if that is a part of the reason that the stories got distorted along the way.
Well, I wouldn't say that. What happened was the cultural interference. The fact that our ways of doing, of living, of eating, of naming, of combing our hair, all our cultural emanations were regarded as negative, as pagan. You know, people will find problems in pronouncing a two-syllable name like M2, you know?
Yeah.
And it is that kind of cultural dissonance that has separated us from our moorings, from who we are. To look with disdain on the way we look, the way we comb our hair, the way we pass on traditions, the medicine that we use is so jokey now to find people going back to lemongrass and all the things that we used to know, a little eucalyptus oil. I mean, my mother, when we got a cold, we used to steam, you know, and so it is so funny to me now. Breakfast is the heaviest meal. We stop eating cassava until in the morning and we have some little slices of thin bread and so on. So it's a whole thing of cultural dissonance that has happened.
Yeah.
If the celebration of emancipation has to make sense, it has to be reclaiming of our cultural morals. I mean, Leroy used to say, who is recharting the ruins? Who is recharting the ruins? Who is helping us to reclaim who we are? Who is actually even looking at who we are? Our education system is a total mess. It doesn't celebrate who we are. It is just a place for turning out people with certificates who come out of it with no self-knowledge. They go into a school around the bridge and they have never heard about the Cambule riots. You know, I go to schools all the time, or when I get young people in to the Cambule process, they don't know the date of emancipation. They have O levels.
Wow.
You know, we have never as a society sat down and decided what kind of people we want to be, and therefore shape our education system to
match
suit
that.
Yeah. You know, why on one day in the week we can't have in the schools a chant issue, and on another day a chant Ganesh if we are celebrating a multi-cultural. We have not dealt with these things at all. We go along living our lives. I would not use the language that Leroy used, but going on our lives with the basics. And he used to say another thing, you know, history pretends amnesia. History pretends amnesia. A wonderful, wonderful phrase.
History pretends amnesia.
History pretends, yes. The history that we know does not celebrate who we are.
It only tells part of the story.
Well, no, it doesn't tell our story.
Right.
In primary school, I learned that there were slaves in the Caribbean and that the Queen, with the help of the great abolitionists who were so Christian and so good, freed the slaves, you know.
That couldn't be furthest from the truth.
I mean,
it was just the rebellions and realizing that slavery was no longer going to be profitable because of everything else that was going on. Why we ended up where we are.
But as we grow, we learn different truths, and I agree with you 100% where we have to take the responsibility, and now we have to re-educate firstly ourselves and of course make it part of the education system. So you're very, very correct, and I agree with you 100%. Ms. Springer, before we go, can you give the nation of Trinidad and Tobago emancipation message? I know that normally we would be, you know, on the road with the truck and celebrating emancipation downtown and making a mass of it and properly celebrating. Unfortunately, we can't do that. We weren't able to do it last year. We're not able to do it again this year. But if you had to give Trinidad and Tobago an emancipation message, what would that be?
We need to invest in ourselves, invest in our history, know who we are, make a point of celebrating ourselves, celebrating our children, our young men in particular, who are killing themselves, killing each other. 1 million police cannot help because there is an emptiness inside of lack of being celebrated, lack of being recognized. In the middle of East Dry River, we have a monument to the Chinese, but we have nothing to the Pan men, the Pan woman. Kwame Ture is not recognized. Our Pan-Africanists are not recognized. We need to celebrate the African in this society in a way that has not been done. The 10 years, the decade set up by the UN for remembrance of African people is almost done. Officially, we have done nothing in this country to celebrate that 10 years. The reparations committee that was set up by CARICOM is dead in this country. It does nothing. It has been cauterized, castrated. You know, it is hard to have spent all these years, Leroy, Resistance, Lancet Lane, doing so much and still seeing that there is so much to be done. African people, there must be efforts to raise a kind of consciousness about who we are, about the positive, so that we can really invest in a society that recognizes us.
I want to thank you so much for joining us this morning, Pearl Entu Springer, and for sharing that emancipation message. I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you so much, and do enjoy the rest of your day, and a happy Emancipation Day to you.
Thank you.
All right, so there you have it, Pearl Entu Springer, cultural activist.